Hey y'all. So this video today is essentially covering a concept of manifestation and almost seeing the future, and that how it is, I suppose, really truly possible that our dreams, our daydreams and actual, nighttime dreams are probably more than likely prophetic, at least in my situation, in my experience. And I imagine this is true for all humans, or living things for that matter. Our visions and our dreams have a lot to do with possibly the way reality is structuring itself, like the universe as a conscious living thing. But obviously, they determine how we view the world and the actions we make. And many, many years studying the philosophy of destiny and fate and possible shortcuts, kind of like a video game, Super Mario, and you hit that little tunnel thing and it sends you to another zone where you can get further, in the level that you were playing before you went there until you return. Perhaps it's a valid physical function that daydreams, visions, and actual, like at night while sleeping dreams, that reality, that major chunk of our experience here, really do determine and predict where we're going to be. Now, today's date is September 11th, 2023. Exactly 3 years ago, I moved here to Costa Rica on what seemed to many to be a whim, but it had been something that I had somewhat been planning for 20 years, and at that point 17 years, and I'll get back into that differentiation in a moment. But the more I sit here and listen and understand where I am in reality and how I got here, literally living a dream come true, I can't help but to think and to deeply understand, moreover, comprehend that perhaps this wasn't mine, Tobin Osuski's plan necessarily. And that through the years I had been given these tidbits and fragments of visions that would eventually become this life I am very lucky to be living right now, here, September 11th, 2023. It's my 3-year anniversary here, and earlier this morning, today, I was thinking, where was I 10 years ago, and where was I 20 years ago, and how did this all come to be so perfectly? Literally so perfectly, I couldn't have planned it to be this perfect. And I tell friends all the time that I couldn't have imagined my life unfolding this way exactly, but it's better than what I would have ever planned for myself or could have worked for. Whether I had become a multi-millionaire or a billionaire or the 100,000aire that I essentially was and am, or if maybe I was homeless, like wherever on the spectrum I could have landed financially in my life, it would have led to this exact life at this exact time in my life journey. And that seems to stand more true than any fact that I've ever known in my life, interestingly. Let me give you an example why. 10 years ago, right now, what would be September 11th, 10 years ago, I was 28 years old. I had just opened Temple Kinesis, the gym, fitness, wellness center in northern New Jersey. And to complement my income, as just, opening a business for myself and having, a bunch of different kind of contractors and employees contributing to the overall growth of that business, I needed some verifiable income that was also going to lead to um, a really good marketing opportunity for the gym itself. So what I did was take an assistant. Actually, I got hired and told I was looked over for the head job because I was younger and tattooed, and I reminded um, the Board of Education, who did the hiring of the soccer coaches at Lakeland High School, that I reminded them of the former coach who had just been let go, um, who had, gone through some type of scandal, which I didn't realize at the time this was, stereotyping, and I could have had a major lawsuit against them for even telling me that, let alone deciding a job on age and not experience, not and on physical appearance rather than capability to be the best candidate for the job, which I clearly was, tenfold. But anyway, point being, if I had gotten that head coaching job, I would probably still be there as the head coach indefinitely, probably for the next 20, 25 years until my kids came up through the program, which who knows when that would have been. But anyway, because I did not get the head job, it gave me a lot more freedom, still gave me good income, and I could still market the gym to the school, the kids, the parents, whomever, I guess other teams that, saw me coaching and found out that I owned this gym. They could have come as well. So it was a very well strategized opportunity, and it also showed me a lot of the true colors of the people who were around me, because when I wasn't present at the gym, there was people that were clearly taking advantage of me, and I got told about that, and actually some former trainer who tried to rob me, and we had the police involved. He had to get escorted out by the police after returning everything he was trying to steal when I was at an awards dinner for the soccer team. So a lot of things happened, but the point of this video is that all of those things, whether I deem them fair or good or, honest at the time, the way I was being dealt with by other people, directly led me to living here and experiencing this blessing, this miracle that my life is now. It dumbfounds me at some points how I achieved this, in a sense. And 10 years ago, I had these visions of creating a worldwide franchised brand for my gym, which when I got into those levels, I decided just simply wasn't something I wanted to pursue, and that I really preferred my business to be a one-off that inspired everybody else to change and up their consciousness and increase their impact for their clients and their customers and for the community overall. And that it really would have been a financial and ego chase if I'd continued that and continued to grow it. And it's not necessarily what I wanted to do my entire life. So I had to make a decision a few years after this 10-year time machine that we're in, that in order to get to the place where I wanted to be and live the lifestyle I wanted to live, that I had to sacrifice things that meant a lot to me, which I imagine we always have to do in some aspect of life. To get to where we want to be, we have to let go and literally sacrifice the things that we cherish so much, that we have this belonging to and ownership over. If we want something greater, we have to say goodbye to the things that are lesser. And I always go back to this meme I saw years ago where, it's not necessarily a religious thing, it's like a consciousness thing, it's an existentialism thing. But there was this drawing of Jesus and a little child, and Jesus was asking the little child for a teddy bear. And the child was like, I don't want to give up my teddy bear, I love my teddy bear. And behind Jesus's back was a teddy bear that was like 5 times the size. And the child didn't know that when it sacrificed this thing, gave this thing up to God, that God had something 5 times better prepared, ready to go, like immediately, not even a question. You just have to have the faith to sacrifice this thing that you you have so much possession over, and the universe will reward you and give you, 3 to 5 to 10-fold to 100-fold what you could have ever expected. And it's very true. So 10 years ago, I was in this mindset. Well, okay, I have to build this because the environment, this world I grew up in, told me I have to build things and I have to sell these things and I have to. And this was all contradictory. Not that I'm anti-capitalist, but it wasn't resonating with my heart. As great as the business was, and as influential as it was, and as happy as I am, and satisfied and grateful that I founded Temple Kinesis, I knew in my heart, even opening the first day, that it was not something I wanted to do forever. And especially, when I was starting my family, one day, hopefully one day, that is something I get to experience, that I would not be able to be in a gym 14 hours a day, 6 days a week. It just wasn't a feasibility. So 10 years ago, September 11th, I was in this mindset, all right, I'm building this dream right now and hustling every day. And I have a business that I own, but I also have part-time jobs because they're going to help my business grow. And I was on this building a pyramid, right? Or building a foundation to the pyramid, knowing that top of the pyramid was going to put me here at some point. Thinking that I had to build this giant brand to do so because I was in that North Jersey, New York City mindset. That hedge fund, need angel investors, need to scale this, need a Harvard MBA as my CEO. We need to scale this up to the next level. I need to get all these different certifications. I need to build my resume even though I own the own business. It's this mindset we get tricked into, accumulate. But spiritually, I was moving the opposite. I was cleaning my plate. I was fasting myself. I was learning to experience reality with less breaths and less words, more impact, more experience. And I guess it was 10 years ago when I had the revelation that, okay, this isn't going to be that path. And as many years as it took me to plan to open my business and study and go to college and manifest, I probably spent equally as many trying to figure out how I would be able to transition out of that without letting everybody down, with still making the impact I was looking to make, and with still having the financial opportunities to end up here where I am so I could start my actual dream of growing all my own food and rescuing animals at a greater scale and really contributing to the benefit of the planet rather than the detriment, rather than consuming and using gasoline vehicles all the time and just essentially being a cog in a tax-paying monster. I was trying to figure out, how can I make more of a positive impact on the environment, the world, not only people's consciousness, but rather like the planet itself, so that, people talk good about me and I've inspired a lot of people during my lifetime, but what work am I doing that is going to transcend my lifetime, that will last for generations, if not eons, like thousands of years after? And the only thing I could think of was like really properly cultivating land and teaching people how to do this so that, the people that I inspire don't just do sit-ups to get better abs, to have better relationships or have better performance in their endeavors, but rather how can I impact people so that they change the way they think and live, and then inspire their children and their community to do the same thing, so it creates an exponential scale of positive impact on the universe itself, rather than just the individual or the community itself, but rather the whole. And this is the dream. This is growing my own food, replacing what was pasture and pure grass and decorative with functional and impactful and organic produce that can support not just people in our generation, but 500 years from now, if somebody stumbles upon this overgrown property, they're going to realize there are over 150 species of edible and medicinal foods growing within this place, and that it's also been planted with pollinators that would allow nature to continue the propagation of the beneficial species that are planted here long after humans are gone. God forbid a disaster happens, or I die off without an heir and it just kind of goes. this place will always be better now and forever more in the future than when I got here. And to me, that was like a huge point and impact. Now, when I was at Temple Kinesis, at some point, if some of you know my history, my father had passed away of cancer, and I felt completely helpless that I was in this health and wellness field, and we were surrounded by so-called the best medicine and best doctors on the planet, and nobody could help this 64-year-old, otherwise very healthy, active man survive cancer, something that we've been suffering through as humanity for decades, generations at this point, where we have some stupid fucking variation of the flu, and within a year and a half, there's 5 medical companies coming up with vaccines and cures for that brand new flu that just showed up, that killed a few people. It was disappointing in the fact that, yeah, not only did my best friend and this really amazing role model of a human being no longer have a chance to live here, but like, how many others? And how long was this going to perpetuate? And me owning a gym was not going to do anything to solve the problem. So immediately I was like, all right, this is changing soon. And I thought of, going back to school for a master's of public health so I can get into government and start to impact policy and decisions, and maybe get aligned with a politician who was on a rising star and having an impact there. But it just, the political system in the United States seemed very dismal after, we couldn't elect Obama anymore, basically. And you could see it was going into this like commercialized, almost psychotic, like military industrial kind of derivation of what was once a constitutional government in the United States. And so that wasn't an option. I knew I didn't want to go into physical therapy because it's like the most boring job in the world, in my opinion. And there was really nowhere I could see myself going other than just completely changing my reality and becoming a farmer, basically. And, that's what I started studying on YouTube. I looked into permaculture courses. I looked into, massive amounts of postgraduate studies that would maybe facilitate me being better at this. And all of those graduate programs would send their master degree or PhD students to go work at somebody's farm. And I'm like, well, why don't I just meet the farmers and talk to the farmers? So that's who I started talking to in Warwick, New York, and, seeing who they saw as a resource in that area. And I was like, well, I got to get away from the winters. So then it became, okay, my father really liked Jamaica. I have a lot of friends throughout my lifetime that were from Jamaica that still live there now, that, I've traveled back and forth to the US, to Asia, and back to Jamaica. And after my father passed away, for a week I was in Jamaica, not a truly in-depth experience, but in that week I experienced a whole lot, actually. And it made a huge impact on me. So I started looking at land in Jamaica, and, long story short, I started looking at land in Costa Rica, and this was much more lucrative and viable for my plan. So already 10 years ago on September 11th, I was creating this reality that I manifested 3 years ago on September 11th. Now let's jump back 20 years. On September 11th, 2003, I was in a neck brace. 3 months earlier, June 24th, 2003, I was in a car accident, which you can see online. Look up the Tobin Osuski story, Taking Back Consciousness, and highlight some of what I went through in the accident. There's also a bunch of other news articles written around the time. The nurse was this random woman that was driving down the street, Janice Hansraj, that saved me. And she actually wound up getting a Red Cross Award, National Nurse of the Year, or Hero of the Year Award through Red Cross in Washington, D.C., and big events. So there was a lot surrounding my accident. But what wasn't surrounding my accident was my awareness of what really happened, that I had, multiple fractures in my neck and my back. I had second and third degree burns in 80% of my body, from, my shoulders to my knees, front and back. I swallowed a bunch of the gasoline that burned me. 14-inch laceration that caused a giant scar on my head. There's another piece, and you could see, it lines my whole head. I was scalped. Holes in my face, almost lost my eye, holes in my fingers, it's endless. endless holes in my arms, in my lower back, stabbings, and all this stuff. So I show up to preseason soccer camp at the University of Rhode Island to play Division One soccer, and I'm wearing a neck brace. So they're very aware that now I can no longer play this first season, and I wasn't really aware. I was just like, all right, like I'm gonna go get in shape and get back to my old self and be fine. But they're like, no, you've got these fractures in your spine. You've got to get cleared by the orthopedic surgeon first, and you've got to go through months of physical therapy with the athletic trainers, and my cardiovascular was not there. But I tried to take the fitness test the first day back in August. Which I think was August 13th, if I recall correctly, of 2013, or 2003, which was the first day of our preseason. So in the middle of summer, I'm out there with neck brace, like still broken back and neck, and I'm trying to sprint this Division One fitness test with these 30 elite athletes, and I maybe got like half of the way through my first 400 of the first 800 meters we had to run, and I was puking everywhere, but I kept trying, and they were like, you know, you're not going to make it, you got to go to rehab, it's just the test for everybody to touch the ball. And interestingly, the impact that made was there was other people that were relatively healthy that didn't finish either. So I was like, oh shit, like I just died and got broken, they're telling me, and these other guys didn't finish either. So like maybe I'm not that in bad shape. So I use that as motivation, like I'm on the same level as you guys, I'm on the same level. And it forced me to get back physically very quick, because I just kept having to work to their fitness level, and I knew if I could get a step quicker or a step better in conditioning than any of the guys that also failed me, and then any other guys that passed the test, that I was on my way, not only to being back, but to like climbing up the chart of that team and getting playing time as soon as I got cleared, because I was on a medical red shirt. So that's what they had. They didn't see me playing at all that year, and they gave me a kind of free pass to get another year of eligibility in the NCAA. So long story short, from that, I basically healed myself with this vision. It was like, all right, like obviously this is not my life. Like I cannot live this life. And when you start asking that question to the universe, like, well, if this is not my life and I'm working for a better life, what is that life? Show me a vision. And we all have these daydreams and visions, going back to my first few minutes speaking. And I would be in my dorm, and then in the houses I lived in posthumous years, and I would always be researching like islands to buy and places to move, and where could I build like a kind of a facility of sorts, like a home base where people would show up and they would realize there's no limits here. You can create yourself however you envision yourself creating yourself, and nobody's going to tell you what's not possible. We're going to show you techniques to how to make it possible. And now that I'm realizing, wow, 20 years since that moment, when I was having these thoughts, and I'm looking up land in Fiji, how much it would cost to buy a private island in Fiji. Like, I don't know why I have Fiji in my mind, but I had this tropical space in my mind that I knew I was going to purchase and transform piece by piece into a place where people could come and actually learn how to be limitless, and to not be reliant on other people to achieve and accomplish what their visions are showing them they can accomplish, and do true good to this planet, and not be transformed into a business or a profitability function or a depersonalized version of the hopeful being you once were, as I had, and I didn't realize I had. But I had this vision of literally buying an island in the South Pacific in Fiji and equipping it with all the wellness, food, fitness equipment, exercise stuff, mantras hanging on the walls that would inspire people to be fully motivated. And then that diluted itself into temple kinesis at some point 10 years after I started having these visions, because I went to so many business classes in school, so many marketing classes, so many education classes, and each of those boxed up this giant island dream into a 5,000 square foot facility that was temple kinesis. And at some point I realized 10 years ago this wasn't the dream, this wasn't the vision, this is the foundational level that's going to create that island for me. I just have to find my way to the top of the pyramid of this thing that is temple kinesis, and that golden function at the top, that golden tablet is going to allow everything else to happen here. And I guess ultimately the point of what I'm saying is, thankfully I'm only 38 years old and I did this fairly young, that anybody watching this that's younger than me or older, that's had these visions of something greater for your reality and a better impact you can make on the world, just go do it now. Because as much of an impact our ego likes to make on us, likes to make on you, liked to make me think that this vision is just a fantasy and it's imaginary and it's just something you're having because you've seen this thing in an image before and it's bouncing around your mind. And our ego doesn't necessarily allow us to be as courageous as we want to on acting upon these things, whether that's a safety mechanism or that's conditioning that's come from other people in our lives growing up who also didn't believe in their dreams and had unconsciously impacted us with that. Our ego likes to play a trick on us, almost like a challenge, challenging us to make this thing happen. Otherwise, why would we have these visions if they were not supposed to manifest? And the universe always has a plan. That's the ultimate point of this video that I'm sharing with you today, is that if I had done this when I was 18, 19 years old and dropped out of college and just tried to figure it out, it would have manifested the same way. If when I owned my gym for a year, I think at that point in 2003 or 2013, a year or two, if I had gone to my landlord or I had gone to another investor, another business owner and said, hey, listen, I want to sell you my business for $1 million with perpetual, like $1,000 a month for 30 years or something, so you can keep the name, and after 30 years I'll sell it to you unless you want to buy me out. Like whatever deal I had made, maybe I'd gone to, a hedge fund company or an angel investment firm and said, hey, listen, like, would you guys like to scale this up and franchise this with me, and you could take 40% of the company and 3 board seats or whatever, and then you guys can do your thing on it, and I'll just be there for, signing papers and when I need to be there and stuff, but it's essentially you guys are running operations and you could take, a chunk of the ownership. And then it franchised out to 1,000 gyms across the world. And this also would have happened the same way it would have happened. It really does not matter how much money I would have, I would be still operating at the same scale because I'm still just a single one person, whether I was 18, 28, or now 38. I'm in the same existential situation where I'm single. I don't have a family. I don't have kids. I don't need 4 functional bedrooms. I can use one of the bedrooms as my office, one as a guest room, my guest cabin as a in-progress thing that I don't need to manifest right now. And whatever age I would have done this at, and I imagine also 48 years old, I would be in the same situation. The universe would have aligned the same factors for me, interestingly. And if I'm meant to be an exponential success as far as financially, because I already feel like I am billionaire Tobin, I just don't have the money to back that title, but I have the lifestyle, in my opinion. That will facilitate my ability to scale what I'm learning and what I've learned to do here now at 38 years old. And if I learned this at 28 years old, the universe would also provide the exponential finance to allow me to multiply and amplify what I'm doing here. Same thing at 18 years old. Same thing at 48 or 58 years old. So let's say in an alternate universe, when I was 32 years old, I got married, had children. At 52 years old, for some reason, we got divorced, and then I had to start over, and by the time my kids were like out of college or whatever and I could be all settled, I'm 38 or 58 years old, right? And I'm still single and I'm still in this situation and manifesting the same thing. So I feel very grateful that I did it younger, but not too young where I would be with the wrong priorities. And I would be focused on women, or I would be focused on partying, or I would be focused on ego driving me rather than a deeper sense of purpose and a kind of generational mindset where everything I do every day, even though I don't have children, I'm foreseeing my children enjoying climbing the guayaba trees that I've planted all over the property that are really good climbing trees, because if I have kids, they're going to be like me. They're going to climb trees. Like I like to climb trees my whole life and throughout my childhood. And like, what better than to have awesome guayaba trees all over the property, by the river, in the front yard, by the restaurant, so that everybody can climb the trees and like experience picking fruits off the trees and having free candy essentially everywhere. And like, so all the work, currently I'm waiting for the horses, so everything I'm doing is in preparation for the future generations of my children, my horse equine children that will be here, and their children hopefully one day, and my children playing with the babies and grandchildren of these horses, you know, God willing. So the point is, wherever you are in your journey, when you begin having visions of your dream reality, start acting upon that, because the universe is giving you that as a go symbol, a go signal, not as a, okay, this is for you to store and start planning for the future. I absolutely guarantee, through the functions of manifestation as physical processes in this universe, that when you start going towards your dreams, they start coming to you as well. And it doesn't matter when you do it. It doesn't matter how early in your life you have these visions or how late in life you have these visions. When you have these visions of a greater reality that's making you smile more than the potential reality you might be living right now, start going towards that. Because even if all the factors aren't secure and in place for you, and you don't feel super confident, or you might not have the money to do it, or you might not have this, start going towards that dream, and the universe will align everything to make that work for you. And that is the ultimate point of this, is when you start moving in the direction of your dreams and your visions, knowing that they have a good intention for yourself and for the world, the universe will conspire to make that happen for you. And that's an absolute fact of reality. And that is my point with this video. So thank you for sitting through some of the stories and the background on that, of how it manifested for me. But I hope you take the lesson out of this, that, you know, when you have a vision that was sent to you from some higher intelligence in the universe that wants you to make that happen, so you start making it happen, and you treat people honestly, and you do the right things along the way, and act correctly and behave correctly, the universe will manifest that for you, because it's the one that's sending you that dream. And if you've unlocked the potential or unlocked the level of consciousness where you can see that, the universe wants it for you. That's no trick. That's no mistake. You've earned the good karma to get to that level of reality where the universe is unlocking secrets in your consciousness for you to manifest here. So go do it. Go be it. So mote it be. Bless you. God bless you. I love you. That's all I got.